FP2 has just come to a close, and with it concludes the opening day of practice around the streets of Monte Carlo. And to say it's been an eventful opening day is an understatement. We've had cars literally flying through the air, with Lewis Hamilton taking to the skies to get a visually different look at the streets of Monte Carlo. We've had surprising pace setters in the opening rounds of FP1 and FP2. And we have to begin in FP1 with Charles Leclerc, who, once again, his curse that seems to be in full effect around the streets of Monte Carlo came into play. And to everyone's lack of surprise, it did of course involve Lance Stroll. Just when I think he cannot add any more to his highlight packages around the streets of Monte Carlo, he does the unthinkable and adds to it. I thought we'd reached the peak with him during his WEC race a couple of years back, but no, he's gone and topped that once again in FP1. Within the first couple of minutes, he had a brain fade, is the only way I can describe it, when everyone's senses and awareness should be at their maximum because you're just coming out onto the streets of Monte Carlo. He literally decided to go to sleep, and it didn't help that he couldn't hear his race engineer. But nonetheless, he got a deserved one-place grid drop for the race this Sunday. In fact, I probably would have given him 3 places because I think the sheer stupidity of it, destroying another team's front wing that is completely trashed, resulting in them losing tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands actually, in pounds of damage. But a good and interesting omen is the last time we crashed out in a street circuit around FP1, he went and took pole position at it. So a good omen nonetheless. Now, away from that, he did actually top the opening practice session in his somewhat wonky Ferrari, as he reported he was adamant there was damage to the front left suspension, I would suspect. And I wouldn't be surprised if that is the case. And he topped the opening session. Now, it was very interesting to see that when a driver and car combination can make a difference around the street circuit, he is always one that jumps to the front of the pack. And it seems, as I suspected, Ferrari may have a little bit of a better package around the streets of Monte Carlo than they first initially may have thought. Whether that continues into FP3 and of course more importantly than that, qualifying, is to be seen. And of course, with the race now having mandatory 2 stops, really anything and everything we know around a Monaco Grand Prix can be thrown out the window, because there is going to be various different strategies happening up and down the field depending on where you are positioned at the start of the race. Anyone at the back of the grid is going to be able to pit instantaneously, and that is 1 pit stop out of the way with 1 left. And of course, from then on, they can just hope for a lucky safety car, and it will bring them it will give them a much greater finishing position as a result. Now, that will then have a knock-on effect to the leaders having to push as flat out as they can as a result of some of those leaders on lap 1, some of those back markers on lap 1 pitting, as it will open up a gargantuan gap for them to fit in if they can up the pace and do the overcut. So there's a lot of variety and variability going to be happening within the race, and I'm fairly certain we're going to see results that nobody ever could imagine in their wildest dreams. Away from that, we had the usual suspects. Mercedes, interestingly enough, had to revert back to their flexible version of front wing in FP1. Now, that was something that was spotted by eagle-eyed viewers as well as myself, and I think it's just a testament to just how difficult it is to strike a balance between front and rear on their Mercedes car. They introduced, if you weren't aware, last time in Imola, a brand new front wing to comply with the technical changes that will be happening next week in Barcelona. So they've got a lot of data on it, and they used it in the Imola race, which may have played a part in their perceived lack of competitiveness in the race. And it seems if things continue on as it did in FP1, they will probably stick with their flexible version of the front wing just to strike a better balance for the drivers around Monte Carlo, because of course they really do need to optimize their starting position through what they do in qualifying. On the other side of the Mercedes garage now, let's turn our attention to Kimi Antonelli, who's for the first time slowly and steadily building up as it gets into qualifying around Monte Carlo. He's not taking any unnecessary risks, which is great to see, and he's just steadily building up his confidence and his understanding of where his car is currently, and he himself is currently around Monaco. And I think we will not see a quick lap really out from him until we hit Q3. And I say that because that is when everyone will start to take the most risks that they've taken at any point in the weekend. Turning our attention to Red Bull and McLaren, it was a day of contrasting fortunes for the two teams leading the way in 2025. For Red Bull, they looked very much off the pace throughout the opening 2 practice sessions, with even Max Verstappen not being able to utilize his innate abilities to bring that car anywhere near the front, looking quite a long way off the pace, and the car just not turning and being able to handle the bounce and curbs around the Principality. Now, McLaren is an interesting one. I think they have a bit of a challenge on their hands with the likes of Ferrari and Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. It seems it's a battle of where the cars are working around the lap. For McLaren, it is sector 3 where they have quite the advantage in the very slow speed section of the circuit. And for Ferrari, they have good straight line speed, ironically, for this circuit, which isn't super important. And they also top the high speed and medium speed corners around the track, and very fast in sectors 1 in particular. So it is about optimizing the packages for where the car is naturally strongest. So it could be a very, very interesting and exciting qualifying session, which I'm sure a lot of you were not expecting for Ferrari before turning up. And that is where I'm going to end the video. Hope you've all enjoyed it. If you have, leave a like here. And if you're new and have enjoyed the content here on F1 Unraveled, hit the subscribe button down below. Alright everyone, I will see you a little bit later on in the weekend for some more videos. Catch you then.